Alright guys, Scrappy again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, the CDL is back in action. OpTic versus Minnesota Rocker this evening, and that means, of course, OpTic versus Kenny. After the official announcement comes through yesterday, Kenny with a few thoughts as well on why he didn't turn up to the Falcons and some of the stories about that, but also some drama with the tax collector. Scump giving his thoughts on the OpTic Scrims situation, some more results going down there last night. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We have so much to get into today, and we will start here. Kenny to Minnesota Rocker is official. This is a really big move. Probably the most interesting one of this period in some respects. Look, OpTic getting Huke back, Pred's gone, of course, that's crazy. But Kenny's decision, and Rocker's decision in many regards to bringing Kenny, is pretty damn interesting, right? Because Kenny didn't have to come back if he didn't want to. He could have decided to sit out the rest of the year and wait for another opportunity. We think the Ravens was a possibility, but Rocker also makes some sense. Gets to stay in Texas where those guys are based. Team with Estriel, Nero, Geo, very talented guys. Do they play the best fundamental COD? No. So this will be a big test for Kenny. Can he come in and get those guys into shape in terms of playing COD in the right way? If he can, then it will prove the point that many make that Kenny is excellent at doing exactly that. If he doesn't, then questions will be raised, especially when Kenny needs to deliver better individual performances than he did most recently on OpTic. There is no doubt about that. But Looney says already, having worked with Kenny over the last few days, he's seeing the impact, already seeing the impact that he brings to a team. Goat emoji. So, look, we'll see how this works. It may take some time. Estriel, I think, is a phenomenal player. Geo is very, very talented, as is Nero. It's just, you know, watching those two on the minimap sometimes, you know, I'm sure does Looney's head in, and I'm sure may be true for Kenny as well, but of course his job effectively is to solve those problems. So Kenny goes from, you can argue the other way, should Rocker have signed Kenny? Was he the best option instead of Paul X? Look, I think if you could get Kenny, you go for it. Obviously I don't know what kind of money's involved in making this happen, because I don't imagine Kenny would come back for free, but equally it very clearly proves to me that Kenny really wants to play, obviously, and also that he just wasn't happy with OpTic, because I mean Shotzzy literally said it on stream that Kenny wants to play, but he doesn't want to play with OpTic, and he really wants to play clearly because he's now back into a team that he didn't necessarily have to join. I mean, he could have sat out the year and got an offer next season, no questions. I know there's been talk as well about the Falcons. There's loads of music in the background of this clip, but effectively what he says is that people have suggested that he didn't want to go to Falcons because of Pred, and he basically said, like, that's not the reason. He didn't exactly imply as to whether an offer was necessarily there, or whether he just felt like this, you know, team made a bit more sense, because of course we can discuss the Falcons, well, frankly, right about now, because they also play very soon. Kenny says, New Arc vibes, of course, the Twitter tick is gone, because he's no longer with OpTic. That has been removed, but I thought this was pretty funny yesterday. So we'll see. Base Windu now instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever, or Kylo Ken as well, whatever used to go over the last few years. So I'm really excited to see Kenny's next chapter, how it works out. But the Falcons, they also confirmed their full roster last night. Pretty funny, not really funny, but like they did a whole announcement video for Pred, right? They had Pred walking out looking pretty cold, everything on and all this. And to be fair, Pred has one World Championship ring. Between these two fellas, they've got 3, but still makes sense. Pred, of course, the star man. But anyway, they just put together a pretty simple image graphic for this yesterday. Welcome Asties, welcome Priester as the new 3rd and 4th of the team. I think certainly bringing Asties back, I do like this move in the grand scheme of things. I think he's a talented player. He's been through a difficult couple of years. He's been starting to cook again in challenges lately. You know, 2-time world champion reason, good experience with Clay as well. You know, bringing Asties back in, veteran AR, leadership, and that type of stuff. Just all the experience in the world. I think that'll be valuable for the team. So I get that one. The Priester one, you know, it's a question mark to me. I'd love to see him turn it around and play well, but he's not been playing at a great level now for a bit of time. So I wouldn't say this is his final chance, just because for Priester, every team he's been on for the last couple of years, I've thought, damn, if it doesn't work out for Preston here, it could be it. But it turns out that, well, never really seems to happen. So, you know, honestly, fair play that he's stayed in the league as he has done. And maybe it wasn't going to happen. Maybe ProLeague was going to come in instead, but that didn't happen in the end. And Clay says this, lots of people talking trash on my roster, acting like I haven't handcrafted some of the best teams of all time. Can't wait to show you guys. excited to get to work. Now, this is a statement that Clayster didn't necessarily have to make. He could have just sat there and, collected the paycheck and said, well, okay, maybe the team's not great. I mean, it's Exnid, Pred, Priestahh, and Arcetes. I don't know. I look at the team, I'm not convinced they're going to be winning anything. They can win some series, sure, but, too much further than that. I don't know what you guys think in the comments section below. But Clay says, I might go live tonight and talk you all through the process. Not sure he did that in the end, unfortunately. But still, Clay didn't have to tweet anything, but he says, no, I handcrafted rosters in the past that won. Throw me to the wolves, I'll come back leading the pack. I've handcrafted rosters again, such as this one, and it's going to work out. So if it doesn't work out, Clay's going to get clowned. But, he set himself up for it, hasn't he? So now the team, it's time to deliver. Thought this is pretty funny that Nastie's tweeted out himself. But, yeah, so Pred says, welcome, and let's see how this team gets on. Of course, the notable thing is if you include the coaches. Now, if you include Karma's ring as a coach, it actually goes up for even more rings on OpTic than that. Of course, they've got 2 with Shotzzy, they've got 1 with Dashy, they've got 1 with Huke, of course, that brings it up to 3, they've got 1 with Skyz at 4, and then I guess we're counting like 4 with Karma to get to 8, and then presumably +1 could be Shotzi's Halo ring. I don't know what you guys think in the comments, but anyway, the point is that Falcons, if you include their coach anyway, have quite a lot of world championships between them. Is it a team on the same caliber? Yeah, not as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's talk scrims and some new scrim drama, because yesterday, Dashy didn't turn the stream on, but Shotzzy did. And he turned the stream on with comms as well, which was definitely notable. Now, a big story yesterday, the big story really, was Dashy. Many thought initially he was joking about people watching his stream, but he wasn't, right? Like, he made his points pretty clear on it. And, well, he was commenting on Scump and the whole situation and says, look, at the end of the day, it's kind of awkward because they're in the same organization, Dashy and Scump. The goals should be kind of aligned. And I do agree with many of your guys' perspective yesterday that effectively said, look, if you're going to do it for the community, then the money doesn't necessarily matter so much. And maybe there is a better way to do it. You guys were suggesting there could be an OpTic stream that maybe they then split the revenue from where there are scrims going on. That's possible. But then what if, let's say, Purge throws on the stream when Boston are scrimming and Scump watches that? How does it work in that case? What type of viewership would Purge be expecting otherwise? Okay, maybe there's some sort of informal agreement where the guys who are co-streaming it, they hop in there, they drop them some gifted subs. I think that's kind of what Dashy was looking for. But Scump gives his thoughts on it. I wanted to share what Scump had to say because, it's pretty interesting. But I think I get Scump's perspective where he effectively says, look, I'm not going to sacrifice the quality of my content and what I want to do for the sake of this kind of drama. Maybe there's some sort of royalties or whatever that end up getting paid, or maybe they don't. But it's a bit of a grey area, right? Because, as I say, what if somebody else turns the stream on for watching practice? And maybe this is one of the reasons as well. I mean, look, would it still be a good idea for teams to turn on their stream? Sure. But, let's say a team like Gentlemates, one of their guys Kismet turns on the stream. No comms, nothing like that. The stream's on. He's getting some viewers, he's getting some subs, he's getting some ad revenue, but, the majority of that is going to the guys that are going to watch Party the Stream and make it better content. So as a result, nobody does it. So, I get it. Unfortunately, it kind of just is what it is. This is what Scump has to say.
How dare you steal scrim content? Yeah, but the thing is, it's not just me. Okay, people just point the finger at me because I have the most viewers doing it. It's not just me. And I talked to Brandon. I'm not going to say what he said, but obviously we're going to keep that between me and him. But yeah, I mean, he didn't care. I'm still going to watch scrims. I mean, if scrims are on, I'm going to watch scrims. And the frustrating part for me about it is that awkward convo? No, not at all. That's my fucking dog. But the frustrating thing for me about it, I'm just going to say this, is that, like, I mean, bro, I've been with OpTic my whole career. I've done nothing but keep trying to push the needle forward. It's like, now that I'm watch party and scrims of my own team, it's literally my own team.
Maybe the OpTic Texas pay cuts, as we believe we understand, have affected things here to some degree. I thought this is pretty funny going around instead of OpTic Texas, it's OpTic Taxes, right? So I thought that was pretty good. So maybe that's going to continue going forward. And obviously people were also saying, well, hang on a second, right? Like Dashy's got his Porsche, right? So why should he care about the extra bread that's coming in? I thought this is pretty funny from Dashy last night. And maybe people are like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe the car payments needed to hit or something. I just find this whole situation fascinating from a content perspective, but also pretty damn entertaining, I'm not gonna lie. So that's the Dashy Scump situation, but also we've got to talk about how their streams actually went last night when they were streaming, and how the scrims went, therefore, as a result. So Shotzzy turns on the stream with comms, which was nice to hear as well. And look, when Shotzzy's going to stream with comms, he's going to get a clean 5k viewers, no problem at all. Now, they played Thieves last night. A big scrim set for sure against potentially the best team in the game at some point this season. I do expect Thieves to still win. I mean, I've made this point pretty clear. Like, these guys should be godlike on paper. I think even Scrappy has made this clear on stream over the last couple of days, and Benjay made the point as well, that he thinks Thieves, you know, from an ego perspective, from a complacency perspective, from an overconfidence perspective, just believes that, you know, they would have no issues getting the win really at Major 2. Of course, it didn't turn out like that at all, and it's also, you know, it's funny really to think a team somehow got complacent when they'd actually won nothing at all until that point. Like, okay, I get getting complacent after a win, but when you've won nothing, you've just gone 7 at other qualifiers, that is a problem. The reality is, though, Thieves are a disgusting team, and that is not going to change, especially, this is my opinion, I made this clear the other day, that I think Thieves, after their win, it's going to go one of two ways. Either internally they will have some friction, let's say, or they will lock in like they've never locked in before. And my prediction was that it was going to be the latter, and so far, that is what the evidence seems to suggest, that Thieves are looking really rather deadly right now. So they played OpTic on the hardpoints, on, I mean, one of the controls, and the skyline was close, 250, 242 in the end. This is, you know, Shotzzy, Dashy, Huke, and Skyz, if you guys can't quite make that clear. Envoy, you know, was on the other side as well. He was the one in the negative, but, you know, they still won the map. The red card was the more dominant one, really. Skyz had a rough time here, 250 to 92. So I think we're seeing a little bit of evidence as to what OpTic, the direction they might want to take, let's say, with their map vetoes. They lose the Vault, they lose the Skyline, they lose the HyDra, they get slammed on the red card, and I don't know what this is all about. And then to close out everything, they played the Protocol as well. They lost that pretty marginally. So it wasn't, you know, crushing in the sense that a couple of gunfights go a different way, and this is, you know, 2 to 4 in terms of scrims. They maybe win the Protocol, they win the Skyline, stuff like that. I still think OpTic are very good at the Vault. They didn't play the HyDra or the Protocol, I think, as Boston were waiting. Kind of strange they played on the Atlanta server, because they're both, like, next to each other, but for whatever reason, the Dallas server, they don't seem to like playing on it, so probably not that much of a big deal, and they lost the Vault 3 to 1. So Thieves win every map they played. So the scrim champs dethroned, or Thieves looking really good. You guys can make your mind up on that in the comments. They then played Boston. They played a couple of hardpoints here, 1 control and 2 search and destroys. So pretty interesting stuff. They played on the Ohio server here. They dominated the Vault, and they got smashed on the red card again. So I think this is notable that I think what OpTic might be not frustrated about, but like teams that they play will likely veto Vault against them. I don't think teams want to play OpTic on Vault right now, really. And OpTic will probably veto red card. So the 2 hardpoints they played against Boston, they probably won't play this weekend because, you know, that's my theory anyway. But intrigued to your thoughts. They won the control. They split the search and destroys. The rewind was pretty good. There were issues with the Battle.net servers and all that. So, you know, they pretty much chalked it up a little bit. But it was good to at least see what was going on. But today is a big day, because I'm not going to talk about practice in any much greater detail. OpTic play Minnesota Rocker. Kenny is playing against his former team straight away. I don't know if this is part of Kenny's plan. I can't imagine that it was too much of his thought process, but it is nonetheless relevant. There are 3 matches today. Falcons, their brand new team, plays Surge. Bit of a, you know, trial by fire there to see how the new Falcons team fares. Will they win a hardpoint? I mean, I'm not going to predict them to, because I think Surge are really good in that mode. Rocker versus OpTic. I mean, today's a banger day, like an absolute banger day. Rocker OpTic is Kenny versus his former team. That's epic. OpTic are the favourites for sure, I would say, because, you know, they've been together now a little bit of time. They've looked pretty strong in scrims. You know, on paper, they probably should be superior. And obviously, Kenny was struggling recently. And my feeling is that it will take Kenny a bit of time to get these guys up to speed. But still, Kenny does have a lot to prove against OpTic, and, well, the stage is set for him to prove it. And then FaZe versus Ultra. Of course, the team that won the major versus the team that was third. Ultra, incredibly good in scrims, as we've said over the last few days. Really solid force. I think this could easily be a game fiver. If I had to predict, I'm taking FaZe. My concern with Ultra still is that they, you know, when push comes to shove, they can break a little bit. So, and FaZe don't seem so prone to that anymore. But intrigued to your thoughts as over in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.